Probably be back and it's done with. Appropriate. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Should be fun. You're a master. I'm just here to listen and learn.
You're getting very popular.
I know.
Like I said, you have the coolest job of anyone I've ever met.
I keep trying to like push off on like the Ohio State people that help me and everybody else, but
That sounds like
oh my gosh, they're awesome. They are phenomenal. I had a skull yesterday I think some pictures of because now we don't even have to do the CT scans. We just take pictures and it generates. They can literally take a bunch of pictures on an iPhone, put it in a software, and it creates the 3D object. And then all we have to do is size it.
I'll bet you've never seen anything
So so nice. They take much less time to print because the CT scans are very detailed. It's just, so they've been doing that, and then they put these into the program, and then I can go through and I can change all the features, and it's so cool. They are wonderful. So I'm always trying to like put them in front of the camera. I'm like, I didn't even do this. You guys are the ones that did this.
30 degrees outside and being able to
Yeah, I'm sure.
2016, some kids were playing abandoned house. Found this skull.
I was plugged genealogy too, so I'm like, okay, you guys are just as cool. What's really rendering your names is genealogy, so you need to go talk to some scientists.
I'm Dominic Pinkley. I'm Deputy Press Secretary for the AG. Nice to meet you. Oh, great. Okay.
Oh, okay, sure. You know.
We met
Years ago, when I used to be a crowd scene.
You know, I can't believe I hear Charles Snyder.
Sure, yeah.
He always needs something.
He's got what?
60, 70 years in law enforcement?
1968, he was hired in Akron.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was telling us that the other day.
He's still like,
He's still active. And his daughter just got, he's on the department.
Hey, I'm Dominic Pinkley. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for the info.
So his,
She's getting a pilot license.
his wife did a wedding cake. My wife got married.
his wife makes some delicious treats. Oh my god. I love when he's in a cold case review because he brings snacks. He brought like some sort of cinnamon pastry, and it was like the most delicious thing I've ever had in my life. I was like, what? Where did you get this? He's like, my wife makes some. I'm like,
I miss cinnamon pastry, but he got these like Twix bars
oh,
that she made, and I took like some of those home. I was like, I'm gonna need
Christine, we're waiting, she's double checking to make sure she's still downstairs. Those are, come back just on Mondays in March, I think, and full-time aid.
Yeah. Dominic, I think we're good to go.
Okay, great. All right.
Morning, everyone. Everyone ready to go?
Yes, I am.
All right, great. Good morning. My name is Bruce Pijanowski. I'm the Superintendent of the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation. I am joined here by Summit County Medical Examiner Dr. Lisa Kohler on my left, and then Samantha Molnar, a BCI criminal analyst and forensic artist, to her left. We will be running through the recovery of human remains that were found in 2016 at 1345 Marcy Street in Akron. I will provide a general overview, and I'll hand it off to Dr. Kohler, and then Samantha Molnar will provide some information about the reconstruction that you see before you now. So we are here today to ask for the public's assistance in helping us identify this individual. As we said, he was located at 1345 Marcy Street in 2016. However, we believe he's been there for a lot longer, at least since 2012. This individual is believed to have been a Caucasian male, about 5'9", and approximately 30 to 55 years old. BCI's role in this is as a resource and a force multiplier for local law enforcement. We have been assisting the Summit County Medical Examiner's Office since 2017 to help us identify this individual. In 2017, facial reconstruction was completed. You see before you, to my left, your right. That was done with partnership from both the medical world and the academic side. We also were able to develop a DNA profile in the laboratory. Unfortunately, that profile did not result in any identification. That to us means this individual did not have a criminal record that was on file. Since that time, BCI is always looking for innovative technologies and new partnerships, and Samantha Molnar has been pivotal in bringing that stuff to BCI. What she's been able to do in 2023 is take the original clay reconstruction and digitize that to what you see on my right, your left, and provide different potential appearances of this individual. And that's important because as we can manipulate that picture, people may recognize someone from one of those different variations. So what we are doing today is asking the public to look at these images and tell us or let us know if you recognize or think you know something about the person pictured here. It's really important that we do get that information. Even the smallest piece of information that you may not think is important, it may end up being the one piece that allows us to be able to identify this individual. The other side of this is that there are families out there with missing loved ones. And we at BCI are also a resource for those families. So to families with missing loved ones, we encourage you to continue working with local law enforcement, and also encourage you to reach out to BCI because there are services and resources that we can also provide to you. As I close my comments, I will point out some more information we have. We believe this individual may have been transient. He may have been squatting at the residence on Marcy, but that makes him no less important to us. It is every individual's right, basic human dignity, to have a name in life and in death, and he doesn't have that right now. So this individual deserves the dignity of his name. So we are asking that if anyone has anything they believe is related to this, that they call the Akron Police Department or BCI. I will now turn it over to Dr. Kohler.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for coming out today. As was already mentioned, our portion of the story began back in January of 2016 when the skull was found outside of this property on Marcy Street. As a part of that investigation, our office, the medical examiner's office, reached out to Mercyhurst University Forensic Science Recovery Team and asked them to come out to the scene and help us to document, collect, and evaluate the remains that were found at that home. Although there were portions of the remains outside of the home, the bulk of the remains were actually within that house on the second floor. Back in November of 2012, there had been a fire in that home, and as the anthropology staff looked at those remains, they could tell that he had been deceased prior to the start of that fire by at least days, if not a few months prior to that. As they looked at his remains, they could identify that he was an adult white male between 30 and 55 years, between 5'9" and 6'5" in height. We've used multiple methods to try and identify this individual over the years. We've created a DNA profile, which is on file, and we were able to have Samantha Molnar create an image in clay based upon the skull that we had. Now, more than a decade later, after he had died, we're still trying to identify him and give him a name and hopefully find his family so that we can let them know what has happened to their family member. And I do believe that that's critical. I am very excited and hopeful that these new digital images that Samantha has had a hand in creating will help trigger a memory in someone's mind as to who this might be, someone that could have been passing through the area and had their demise here in Akron, but we would like to give a name to this person and to be able to let their family know the final outcome of where he is and as much as we can as to what happened to him. So I am very grateful to everyone involved in this case and their continued efforts, and also for the media for being able to come out and take this message out to the community so that we can reach more people. Now I'd like to turn this over to Samantha Molnar, who is the forensic artist responsible for not only the clay reconstruction, but also these images. Samantha.
Hello, my name is Samantha, and I work for the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation as a criminal intelligence analyst, but also as a forensic artist. I get the privilege of working with agencies throughout the state, trying to create facial reconstructions of people that are still unidentified in our state. I've had a really great relationship working with Summit County on this case. And for this one, we did the facial reconstruction back in 2017, but something new that we've been working on with Ohio State University and all the incredible minds there is being able to put it into a software that allows us to generate different images. So when I create a facial reconstruction, there's a lot of things that I don't know. I'm usually operating completely off of just skeletal remains, so I don't have tissue. A lot of times there's no hair that's located. I don't know hair color. So this software allows us to generate different images that might trigger someone's memory. we put this out. Unfortunately, when I do a clay sculpture, it's going to take me a lot of time to sculpt bunches of different hairstyles or facial hair, things like that. But this software allows me to do that much more quickly. We actually use a technology called photogrammetry. So I can just take a bunch of pictures of my sculpture, and then a program can create a digital 3D copy of my sculpture. And then we put it into the software where we can change some different attributes. So just reaching out today to show these new images, reach back out to the public, put these photographs back in your mind, so that way maybe it jogs a memory. Or even if this person here doesn't look like somebody that you know that's missing, if there is anybody in your life, male, female, black, white, whatever it is, please call us or please call your local agency, because it might be a Jane or John Doe somewhere else. So thank you so much. I think we could turn over to questions.
For Dr. Kohler, how difficult when you're dealing with remains like this is it to determine a cause of death? And so are you saying that he died before the fire, so the fire didn't kill him?
That's correct. Determining the cause and manner of death when we have skeletal remains is very challenging. We have the anthropology team, which can tell us if there's any evidence of trauma to the bones to indicate a sharp force injury such as a stabbing or a gunshot wound. We did not find any evidence of that here. That does not mean that that did not happen to him. It's just there's no evidence on those bones. So because all we have are the bones and no soft tissues to do any testing, we do not know what happened as far as the cause of death. We do not know the manner of death. Because at the time he was examined, the anthropologists were able to identify that there was evidence of decomposition. There was a very small amount of soft tissue remaining at that time. They could see that there was evidence of decomposition prior to the fire damage. And so they were able to say conclusively that he was deceased prior to the fire and not a victim of the fire.
But the fire didn't destroy the house, and nobody noticed that there were remains of him back then?
At that time, it's my understanding that he was not discovered, and I believe more people have been using that home as a place to stay. Some of the remains were scattered into the yard, and the time that he was found by a passerby, someone had actually placed the skull out onto the sidewalk, which is what brought attention to the remains.
Like people who were staying inside the house or in the area?
We don't know who did, but it looked as though the skull had been placed carefully on the sidewalk. It hadn't been thrown, and it was believed that someone had taken the remains and placed them out there for further discovery. Yes, sir.
So how often are cases like this solved, and how optimistic do you all feel that this could be solved?
When you're saying solved, are you saying for identification? At this point, he is our only unidentified person out of the remains that we've dealt with. We have had other skeletal remains come through our office in the past, and we have been able to put a name to those people, usually by DNA evidence. So if there is DNA in the system that we can compare them back to, we're able to put a name to that individual and get them back to their family and tell their family that the remains have been found and that we now know that location. So it is unusual for us to have someone with us for this long with no identification.
Dr. Kohler, what does it feel like to take a look at these images after having this clay model for so long?
For me, it's very exciting. The fact that we've got the technology to start showing different hairstyles and slightly different features, it's amazing, because now I'm hoping that somebody is going to look at a color image and see characteristics of a friend, a neighbor, an acquaintance, and be able to put these two pieces together and say, I know who this person is. So it's just another use of technology that hopefully will get us to the positive conclusion of putting a name with this individual.
Question for Samantha. How much of this is guesswork versus how confident that this guy may actually look like that?
Yeah, so every case is a little different. It kind of just depends on what's located. Sometimes I've had cases where I only have the top portion of the skull. I may not have clothing, I may not have the jawbone, maybe all of their teeth have fallen out
post-mortem. So with a case like that, I have a lot of guesswork. There's a lot of things I don't know. But for this case, we did have clothing found. We did have most of his remains recovered. I don't believe we had any hair in this case, which I think the different images are beneficial for that purpose. But a couple of things that stood out to me in this case was the fact that he had a dental plate. He had some tooth loss in his life. His septum and his nose was rather crooked, which made me believe that he might have had a crooked nose in his life. Again, I don't know that for sure, but those are the things that I look for when I am looking at different skulls and trying to reconstruct the face. I'm trying to pull out all of those individualized features and really bring attention to them in the reconstruction in hopes that that is a feature that might stand out to somebody and might make them call. Yeah.
What was the evidence that he might have been transient? Or did you guys kind of include that?
Did you want to speak on that, or?
Largely because he is being found in a home that had been abandoned, and it is a common situation that we will see within the community that individuals who are either transient or homeless at the time will seek shelter in abandoned homes, and that is part of the reasoning we're believing he is likely transient.
I have a question.
Yes.
If someone says maybe I recognize this person, can you speak at a high level what the process would be for trying to determine if that maybe is the person that they know?
Well, if we can find a potential clue to who this person is, we will pool our resources together, and we will be working with BCI and others to try and find characteristics that allow us to say that this is him. If there are other family members that are currently alive, we can get DNA from those suspected family members and make a comparison and get those results. So it will just depend upon what information we have, and we will work with what's available to try and connect and to say that it's either this person or not.
But if this was a homicide, you'd never be able to figure that out at this point, or could anything change with the identification of him?
It would depend upon what kind of information we can find. I don't have physical evidence to say it's a homicide, but I can't exclude that. So until we have a clue who he is, it's hard to connect the pieces back to see if there's enough information to say more about how he died.
Anything else?
With the solvability question you asked before, can you give me any kind of stat, figure, or number of how many cases you guys have been severe or this last several years to give some context?
I don't have in my mind a number of skeletonized remains that we've had. They do come in intermittently. We recently had one within the past year out in Copley where we've got skeletonized remains that were able to be identified by their dental records. And it's just something that happens every year or so, but I don't have a hard number.
All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to send a press release that has that image. Are you on our press release distribution list to the Attorney General? I'll get on it.
Samantha,
You have, like,
I get a quick one-on-one with you. Just
yeah, I can send it to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you give me your email address.